What if you could close high-ticket roofing jobs virtually without setting foot in the home and still get acquired by a national player? Kody Landals did exactly that. As the founder of Reimagine Roofing, Kody built one of the most innovative roofing companies in the country, scaling into 8 states using virtual sales, a centralized lead gen, and a consultative team selling model that most contractors would never even consider. In this episode, we unpack how Kody's virtual first model led to a successful acquisition by a PE-backed national brand, what really caused the sudden shift in roofing buyer behavior and how to respond, the role of discomfort, honesty, and AI-driven call coaching in elite sales team performance, and why helping people make a decision, not just selling a roof, is the new name of the game. Plus, we talk about what most owners get wrong when scaling and how to stay sharp as the industry tightens up. If you're trying to grow, adapt, or just survive in 2025's market, this episode is pure gold. Let's jump in with Kody Landals of Reimagine Roofing and my fellow coach with the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance.
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business.
Kody Landals, how are you, man?
Doing awesome. How about yourself?
Great, man. Reimagine Roofing has progressed.
Yeah.
How are things going post acquisition?
Awesome. I mean, at least awesome for me. I know the admin team at the parent company probably not quite as awesome. You know, it's been a little bit of a transition from being able to just go into somebody's office and say, hey, do this, or hire this person, or hey, we're changing this, to now having to fill out a form that has to take 5 days in order for it to happen, and then so that's been a challenge, but I mean, besides that, it's been awesome. It's really allowed me to be a lot more involved in the day-to-day on the sales and the marketing side, not being as concerned with kind of the dollars in, dollars out, and really has allowed my brain to be in the the right brain space the whole work week, rather than having that constant like, oh yeah, that's all awesome, we made a great sale, all right, let's make another one, wait, hold on, did he pay his bill yet, did this, and you're constantly kind of juggling 19 things, and now I'm only juggling like 5, so much better in that regard.
Much easier. How did let's talk a little bit about, so for people that don't know you, we could go back a little bit further. You've been on the podcast before. We coached together in the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance, so we know each other well. But what, for people listening, like, where did Reimagine Roofing come from? How did you start Reimagine Roofing, and what was the vision for it?
Yeah, just kind of the brief summary of it. I started in the solar industry, and I was working with a lot of roofers in the solar industry. Got tired of unprofessional roofers and just taking multiple days or even weeks to get a quote. So I wanted to reimagine the roofing process, hence the name. So I launched Reimagine Roofing. We started off as a B2B focused company where we did roofing for the majority of the solar industry. As the solar industry, kind of imploded from the inside out, we switched to a direct to consumer model with a focus on really utilizing technology to give a unique homeowner experience. So the big thing that really separates us is we sell all of our roofing projects completely virtually. So while sometimes we'll still do in-person inspections, many of our homeowners already know they have a bad roof and they just want to get it taken care of. They might be in Europe at the time and or they might be an Airbnb owner that owns multiple properties, or they might just be somebody that doesn't want to have to deal with their unruly kids and dogs. Like myself, I got a Great Dane and 202. So if you're going to come, sit in my house to have my 6-month-old screaming and my 2-year-old screaming and my Great Dane trying to lick you to death, it's like, man, can't we just do this over the phone and it'd be that much easier? And so that's really what we've done is, try to make the roof buying process as simple as possible to appeal to that customer that wants to do something quick over the phone or over a Zoom call. And it allows us to, help a different subset of homeowners than your average homeowner.
Yeah, that's, and it, It has definitely changed the perception. I know a lot of the members in the RSRA have gotten some inspiration from you, and it's like, wow, what do you mean we're not going to the kitchen table? Like, what do you mean we're not climbing you know what I mean? Like, it's just, wait a second, like, but it's worked, right? And it has worked to, I mean, you've had your ups and downs and struggles like everyone does, but building it that way led to a future acquisition. Maybe speak to that a little bit of how, kind of how that came about.
Yeah. The thing that I always kind of talk to my team about is that, we don't need to sell. Not everyone's our customer. We can't sell 100% of the people. And so, by focusing in this niche, it allowed us to find the right customer, just like Carvana, people buying cars without test driving it. Sometimes homeowners are okay, not having that person at the kitchen table. And many people have actually said it's a miracle to them. Like, oh, thank you so much. I didn't want that. And if you think from a scalability perspective, my team is selling roofs in Florida, in New Jersey, in New Mexico, in Utah, in Texas, in Arizona, all from right here in Arizona. So one, it's scalable, but also it's a lot more manageable. All the calls are recorded very easily because they're on the phone or on a Zoom call. I can walk out there and listen in real time. So there's, a lot of kind of operational and leverage benefits there. And so that was really appealing to the private equity space because it provides a real roadmap and a real system to be able to sell roofing in, 48 or 50 states, which is, has always been kind of one of the challenges in the roofing space is how do you take it national? How do you provide that consistency when a roof in Oregon is so much different than a roof in Arizona? How do you scale without sacrificing quality or without having, kind of the franchise model where it's like, yeah, we're in 28 states, but Bob over there doesn't do it the same way Jim doesn't do it. And Steve doesn't even come to the calls, but I think when you can control the leads and the sales, then the rest of what you're doing is producing at the local level. And that becomes a lot more easy to manage and systemize, because if you have one branch that's doing 20 million a year and your other branches are doing 5 million a year, it's tough to then tell that person doing 20 million a year what to do or to do it differently, or to, they're 50% of the revenue. What are you going to tell them? And I think like by centralizing the sales and the leads, which we still have our field teams, we still have our teams that go out, they still do a ton as well. But I think long-term kind of the vision of being able to centralize increases the scalability.
Yeah, definitely. And there are so many challenges with scaling and moving into new locations. So you were acquired by Elite Construction Solutions, right? Mike Braun and the team over there, who've I've known for years. He's been on the podcast a couple times, and I really, what were some of the things, I think for a lot of people that are starting to get into this acquisition area of their business, and they're starting to get some attention, they're starting to get the phone calls. How did you go through the process of make sure it was the right fit for you guys?
I think it starts with defining what you want, and having clear vision on that, because there's enough players in this space. Somebody will give you what you want, but if you don't know what you want going into it, then you're going to struggle and you're going to probably end up unhappy. And for me, what I wanted a clear pathway to be able to take this to the next level. I wanted a decent ramp, and I'm a salesperson at heart, so I wanted to bet on myself. I didn't value getting a ton of money at close. I drive a company truck to this day. I'm perfectly happy in the house I'm in. So it's like, okay, great. Give me, $5 million tomorrow. What am I going to do? I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing now and building. So instead, as anything in the world, if you're willing to bet on yourself and defer gratification or defer payment, it's always going to be larger if it's tied to success. And so for me, that was really important. And everybody was like, or most every other people that I'd spoken to were just giving clear multiples of EBITDA. It's like, great, you did this last month, or this last 12, times it by this number, and here's your payout. I'm like, yes, but I'm also, my trajectory is looking like this. And I know what I'm about to do. And I'd like to bet on what I'm about to do. And they're like, well, yeah, but this is what you did the previous 12 months. And they just would keep coming back to that. So I wanted a creative solution that allowed me to have that true ramp that I saw, with getting, some financial security and some other, guarantees that around my team, around, keeping the personnel in place, having some autonomy on the decision making, and going to build what I wanted to build. And I wanted, that rocket fuel to put on what my vision was. And I wanted a partner that believed in my vision. And at the end of the day, they were really investing in that vision. My company, yes, but more so the vision of what came next.
Yeah. What was the most painful part of the process for you?
Oh man. The last, I don't know, it was all a blur, whether it's like 3 days or 7 days or whatever it was. Ours was more complicated than most because I was a 5149. I had a financial partner that was here from the beginning, really completely silent, but had the financial interests as well. Also, throughout our process, we had taken on a minority investor that had given us, that invested in us to blitz scale to the East Coast, a solar company that also, the way the original investment was written, had more control than they should have as a small investor. So it was a lot of moving parts and a lot of people. It was the best way I could describe it. It was like a giant game of chicken that it was in everybody's best interest to get the deal done. But at one point or another, probably myself included, I think all parties said, you know what, maybe this deal isn't for us. And so it was, we were actually having like a company event. We had a bunch of people fly in and we were like doing a game show. And I was just sitting in the lobby, like just rotating calls of like, because also it was like kind of all like I was the central point of it all. And it was like calling, all right, now we're here. All right, now we're here. Okay. Hey, what about, is that going to be, and it's like, I think it was on a Friday at 5:30 or something as well. And we were trying to get everything done, before the weekend, basically. There was some time constraints on it as well. So that was really stressful, having multiple parties involved in kind of it not being as simple as all of us just getting to the table and talking together, but like a high level game of telephone, because also with the other parties, it would then, go to the person I'm talking to, up a couple times and then come back down a couple times and come back, so it was very, 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 very challenging, but taught me a ton. It was a great experience. Like it really was something to kind of see this happen in real time and to be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And then, as you said, this was the partnership came together, the acquisition came together. And like I asked you, like, what were the things? And it was like the aligned vision, letting you express your vision and keep this thing moving forward in the ways that you're looking at it. What has it been like since, right? You said you went from juggling 19 things down to 5. How has that helped you? What has the outcomes been? What's it been like post acquisition?
Yeah. I think it's allowed me to stay in, a flow state. And it's allowed me to, it's as funny as it sounds, it's allowed me to do deep work at work. So I used to only be able to write new scripts or build a new presentation or do some of these like creative things either on the weekend or, at 4:00 in the morning, like from 4 to 7 until like, the day started. And now, I can do these things. I sometimes look at my calendar and I'll have a 3-hour window and I'm just like, oh, wow, I guess I'm going to work on some scripts. Cool. Like, it's like the first couple of times it was weird. It was like, oh man, I got 3 hours. What am I supposed to do? And I'm just like, oh man, I can do like this stuff that's also work, but I've always thought was like weekend work. So it's allowed me to get more kind of precise with our language, listen to more calls, do more training, just sharpen the sword. across the company, which has allowed us to, then to respond to things in real time, such as the new economic challenges, such as, new customer sentiment. I mean, being able to see that in real time and getting a response out within, days of getting the feedback from the sales team or hearing it on the calls has allowed us to, be nimble and during times like this where things are changing quickly.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that's been coming up a lot on our, on my RSRA calls. I'm sure if, on your calls too. I had a call this morning, and I don't know if everyone's ready. I don't know if everyone believes that it's real yet. They're still wondering. They're starting to question their marketing agency. They're starting to question their marketing manager. They're starting to question if this BNI group that I'm a part of is worth it now. They're starting to question the lead sources, the LSA account, right there. I feel like there's a lot of people questioning that, but not coming to the realization that there's something bigger going on.
100%. I mean, I was there. I would be lying to you if I told you there wasn't a week where I questioned the virtual sales process, like just a month ago. I was just like, man, maybe do we need to start sending people to people's homes again? Like what's going on? Because there was a very distinct shift in consumer sentiment that seemed to literally happen in real time. We went from basically never hearing it to 6-7 times in a week that, hey, I just lost a lot of money in the stock market. I don't know if I might hold off for 3 months on this roof, or, we do a lot of high-end metal roofing, and our ideal customer is somebody that probably has $1 to $5 million in the stock market. It drops 10%. They lost 150K, 200K in a weekend, or in a week. And they're like, hey, maybe I don't do this $70,000 metal roof. Maybe I should get a shingle roof, we saw it happen in real time. And, to your point, I was questioning the sales process, thinking that there must be something wrong there. I was questioning the leads. I was like, man, but and then you started seeing the data come out that consumer sentiment's the lowest it's been since the 1980s, or the second lowest, whatever the stat is. But consumers are feeling more tight. And even as I talk to my company, and like my brother's like, I stopped putting any more money in the stock market for like a week or two. I just kind of want to see how things shake out. And then another person said that. I'm like, okay, so if everybody has now just kind of put a pause on investing, just like anecdotally, of course you'd put a pause on spending $20K on a roof, especially if it's now also like a retail roof where it's, right. I just have a little brown water spot. It's not even, maybe I'll just wait until I get my next paycheck or my next paycheck. So all of that that little bit of is what changes massively your set percentage, your close percentage. All of the leads and the sales, because that little bit of doubt on top of something they already don't want, and maybe don't in their mind need, because it's just a little water spot, or it's just 20 years old, it hasn't started leaking yet. You combine all of that together, and you'll see a huge drop off, and that's what we're hearing from contractors across the nation. And
I'm hearing it not just in the roofing industry. I have my ear to a lot of other industries too, and especially around home services and contracting. Boy, it's the same everywhere. And so, the COVID boom is gone, and I think everyone needs to come to grips with that. And so you're in a very unique position. How many states are you guys selling in now?
We're in 8 states now. What's that?
How many states or markets? Because I don't know if you might be in multiple markets in a state too.
We're in 8 states, and about 15 markets is where Reimagine's, and then the parent family brands has another about 7 or 8 states, which we will be selling in those very, very shortly. We actually just that event in St. Louis, that hailstorm, we sold probably about 20 or 30 roofs in conjunction with the local brand there. So that was our kind of first rollout of prototype test case. It went amazingly well. And so, now Reimagine will stay in our locations. We're opening, like we just opened up Dallas. So we'll keep naturally growing. But we now will have the ability, if something happens in Omaha, we would activate, my sales team with that local brand in a combination of their door knocking, their mailers, all their traditional stuff, with my stuff as well.
That's awesome. And that really gives you a broad spectrum on the market, right? Because, it's not just, well, we haven't had a storm this year yet, right? Which I think a lot of people are going to start to say, but even like that, there may be more to it, right? Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today. And having that viewpoint of all of those markets, mostly retail for Reimagine, you're mostly retail markets, right?
Yep. And then the other markets are mostly store markets. They're
mostly
largely
store,
in the
the
Midwest.
other brands. Yep, the other brands in the portfolio. Yeah.
Okay.
So you guys have a unique position, but being in specifically retail, boy, I've heard, we were talking this morning on my call in RSRA. One guy was like, yeah, even the home show was different this year. There wasn't as many conversations. There wasn't, like everything is the writing is on the walls. So now the question to you is, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, and I think the couple things are necessary. One is helping homeowners understand that this is a need, not a want. Maximizing the amount of attention when you have their attention, meaning twofold. One, when they call in, understanding that they might have enough activation energy there, but after that call in, they might not, if you don't build up even more, they may not show up to the appointment because they're just kind of right on that edge. I don't even know if I should do it, not do it. So really making sure that we maximize the time with homeowners, that when they are prepared to make that investment of time into seeing if they need a roof, making sure that you have really good evidence, because I think we're starting at a lower point. If we need to, I always think of it as kind of getting somebody to a certain level of activation energy of buying a roof. Right now, if they were here before and they were going up, now I think they're starting way down here. And so they want to even more so not do it if possible. So we have to have better photo reports. We have to have, more education, sending out like our videos beforehand to help homeowners understand, the consequences of not replacing the roof. And that's the other major thing, is that, waiting has never saved you money in roofing. It literally has. Anytime you look at, especially over the last 4 to 5 years, and it's not just price increases. It's additional plywood damage. It's now drywall damage because you let that little brown water spot now turn into your whole kitchen collapsing. So if you were in a tight position before, like, do you really want to add $2,200 to it for interior and then throw on that? You waited a quarter, and guess what? We have another price increase. So now it's another $800 on that. You just cost yourself $3,000. And so what we've really been working with the team on is helping homeowners make decisions, not buy roofs. And I think there's a difference in the way you approach it and the way you talk to the homeowner. And now our goal is to help them make that decision first. And then once they've decided I am going to buy a roof, then we can help them choose the right roof.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I liked how you put it, like helping them make a good decision, or helping homeowners make decisions versus, we've we've shifted a lot into consultative selling over the years. Everyone has. But even it feels like you're taking it a step further. Is that how you're envisioning it?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it kind of like, personal training. I came into that space before solar, and a lot of times, people would come and, they'd join the gym, they'd go through that initial assessment, and then they kind of would be like, all right, that's great. Now they have their little free workout plan. They're like, now I know what I need to do. And it's helping them see like, hey, but you've known that 5 other times, and you're still sitting here today and you haven't achieved your goals.
Yes.
Maybe you need help. And taking just that extra Alex Ramosi says, the only thing that separates manipulation and helping people is intent. Even if I used to manipulate people into going to personal training, but because they had failed 5 times before, and I saved them from getting on diabetes medicine, and they had never been happier, and they made more money at work, and they were thrilled with it. But at the end of the day, you could call it manipulation. But I think the difference is in intent, and we have to be okay asking the hard questions and kind of pushing on homeowners that, are you really going to wait? Is that really what's in your best interest? You've seen the photos. Your roof's not going to get any better shape. And asking some of those hard questions and being a little bit more suggestive and being a little bit more, some people would call it pushy, but I would call it honest. And I think in the past, because people were like, here, take my money, it was a lot more just like, oh, yeah, you're definitely going to buy a roof. Okay, great. Here's why I'm awesome. And then they would sometimes pick us. But now a lot of people, I mean, literally just in the last 2 to 3 months, they're thinking what's in their best interest is waiting 6 months. And if you're a roof professional and you know that roof is 21 years old, it's not in their best interest. We're going to have another price increase. They're going to get more interior damage, and they're going to be in the same place they are now. Interest rates aren't going to change much. Nothing's going to change in 6 months, except it's going to go up a little bit more. And so they need to do the roof today. And if we have to, be a little forceful with it, obviously in a professional manner, then we're still doing what's best for them. And I firmly believe that.
And so now I think the challenge becomes, and I'd love your advice on this for the listeners. And, you talked about it's coaching your sales team to have those conversations, because they can get uncomfortable. And man, there's a lot of salespeople that don't like to get uncomfortable. It's much easier, Kody, to just say, but I'll give you a free roof for the cost of your deductible. Like, it's just so much nicer, right? Than having to tell someone, look, this is really what's going to happen. This is what the real problem is. I hope I can help you see where you're really going with your decision. That can get uncomfortable. How are you developing your sales team to have those more challenging, more uncomfortable conversations?
It's role play. I mean, 100% role play. And what I would say to kind of your first point of that, the salesperson out there that just wants to do the roof for the deductible, that's going to get uncomfortable really quick as well. Because on these, like I said, we just worked this St. Louis storm. We had the highest deductible we saw was $15,000. We had an $8,900 deductible, a $7,600. I mean, these are retail roof prices almost for a deductible. And that storm, it demolished siding and roofing. So, it's a $30,000, $40,000 claim, and the guy has a $15,000 deductible. It's not like he can go out there and, replace some window screens on his own and cover his deductible. You have to be comfortable having these tough conversations, because that's the space we're living in now. We're going to see more and more of it, but this was the first storm we worked. We've done stuff, after the hurricane in Florida, and we saw sometimes here and there, but this was the first one where it was just like almost, and these weren't huge homes. I mean, it was like a $250,000 home, like $250,000, $300,000 home with a, $9,000 deductible. So I can only imagine, when that first storm hits Dallas and it's a, 70 square roof, do they have a $25,000 deductible? So it's here. I mean, we've been talking about an RSRA. You've seen it on like Facebook, et cetera, but this was the first storm where it was like every other one. We started expecting, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 deductibles. And we're surprised when it was 1,000. So, but it really comes down to role play and just, having the just reps of that one specific, conversation. Like for one little thing that we just implemented is we used to ask at the end of kind of our presentation, we'd say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience so far? And let's say they would say 9 or 10 with, a trial close. We would say, okay, sounds like you really want to do business with Reimagine Roofing. Now we've changed it to sounds like you've made the decision to use Reimagine Roofing. So we put a little bit more of oomph in it to psychologically in their brain say, yes, I made the decision now to work with Reimagine, and then they confirm it. So little things like that is how we've been working to, but that's uncomfortable to say to somebody because what if they say no? What if they say no? Like, then what do I do? And then, okay, great, let's role play it, And so but then having the team role play that one sentence 10 times, 15 times, 20 times. So it feels comfortable when they say it rather than, role play the whole presentation one time and only role play that, that ending one time as well. Like, no, let's role play the uncomfortable spot 20 times. So then you're comfortable when it comes up.
Yeah, get comfortable in the uncomfortable because it's, and that those are the most critical aspects, right? I think that's the biggest challenge. And then what's really challenging, from a human perspective is like we're worried that we're worried what they're going to say. And we've heard all of the rest of the conversation and we're to this point now. And it's time to say it, and it's time to get it out of your mouth, and it's time to get it out of your mouth very confidently, because the homeowner will smell fear in the way you say it. And so, what I think an advantage that you have, then you said, like, because your team is all in-house, all the calls are recorded. How are you as in managing that process? How much effort are you putting into, reviewing those calls? Are you using some AI tools to help you review the calls? What are you doing there?
Yep. So we do use some AI. They put their call transcripts into Chat GPT, and then we have like a format that we put into Chat GPT that says, hey, this is what it's supposed to be like, and then it will spit out the formula along with analysis as well. So that's good. The other thing is really self-assessments as well. Like actually the team right now is on self-assessments. So they listen to their own calls. And then the new thing that I just started this week is once a week they have to pitch in my office. So I set up a little like pitch station so once a week they have to come in there and pitch live. We still listen to calls and et cetera, but I want them to feel a little bit of that tension, a little bit of that, like that adrenaline. It's like, okay, look alive. And so but then also each week they bring their best call and their worst call to be evaluated by the sales manager. So bring me what you think is your absolute best call. And if that's a C, okay, we have problems, like if you think this is your best, so at least I know what you think is supposed to be happening, because then it gives me insight. Okay, are the other ones you're just not following? Or do you honestly think that on question number 3, you should say this, or so it gives us insight into like, hey, do we need more training or do we need more effort? And I always think that's important to understand. And then the worst call goes, gives us insight into, okay, let's figure out how did this become the worst call? And that's what we really try to train on is like, let's listen to it. Okay, you see right here, this is where the guy started asking you the questions. He could hear the fear in your voice. And then from 6 minutes to 32 minutes, you just got completely bulldogged every single step of the way like this. But this is what happened right here at 5 minutes and 45 seconds to 6:01. You lost control right here. And then look what happened.
Right here.
Like, we don't need to listen to the other 26 minutes. Like we just need like, don't do this next time. All right, awesome. Let's go. And like that's the benefit of, having those recorded calls is like, we can just look at that and see this is exactly what happened. And then once that happens, like you'll never do it again. It's like, it'll just be like, okay, man, you see that coming 100 miles out. If anybody ever tries to kind of take control of the call again, or, you stumbled or whatever the situation was, it becomes a real learning experience.
Definitely. I love the idea of that you brought. And I think it was a big aha moment was this was my best call. Letting them say this was my best call. And then you're grading that call and you're like, oh, that's an expectation, right? A lot of times people will feel that they're doing better than they are. And we'll, that's a big one. For teams out in the field, I think of like there's devices like Plod that you could hook up. It's like a little microphone thing that just records everything that's going on into an app in your phone. You have the more sophisticated stuff like Rilla and those what's the other one there? You know that yeah. Like there's those types of, like there's those that could be used as simple as the voice recorder app on your phone.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to get complex. Turn on the voice recorder app, record the conversation, take that. A lot of the voice recorder apps will do a transcript for you. If it won't, you just pop it, you prop it in somewhere to do a transcript and then drop that and start to be able to diagnose that. So I would say if you have a team that is not in office like Kody's, put some simple things in place that could replicate this in your sales process.
Yeah, with an Engage presentation as well. If you use Engage, it measures the time on each slide. So if on this slide you're supposed to ask one question and we spent 17 minutes on it, probably a little bit of insight into that. This is probably where things went left. So
right.
if you can combine Engage with the recording, even better. So there's other like presentation software that has that benefit too.
Yeah, that's great advice too. And I think that this is what kind of back to the beginning of the conversation when we were talking about like everyone's worried about like, man, do our leads suck? Do the Google why these Google LSAs are down a lot? What's going on? I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. As a roofing marketing agency owner and coach, I've seen it all. Great marketing wasted because no one follows up fast enough. That's why I built Power Up Agents, not just a receptionist. Our AI handles the entire customer journey, from answering the first call to booking the job to post-job surveys and reviews. 24/7, inbound, outbound, even multilingual. If you want leads followed up instantly and customers nurtured automatically, visit the link in the description or visit the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website. Your full AI team is ready. Kind of back to the beginning of the conversation when we were talking about like everyone's worried about like, man, do our leads suck? Do the Google why these Google LSAs are down a lot? What's going on? Like a lot of times the juice isn't in your marketing. The juice is in the process from the time the phone rings through that sales conversation. And you could have big gaps there that make your marketing spend very inefficient. And so getting really detailed and for those of you that have never gotten this detailed, this is who you're competing against. So put some effort into it. You can't just go out and hire people and hope.
Yep.
It's not a good business strategy. It's tough.
Yep. Another piece of advice I'd give during this time period would be speed as well. Just, the old saying, time heals all wounds. The first time you have that little water spot on your ceiling, it's the end of the world. Your house is collapsing. Do we have to get a hotel tonight? 3 days later, it's just a little brown spot. A week later, it's like, hasn't that been there the whole time? It was there when we moved in. So, if you present now 8 days later, I'm not as motivated anymore. I'm just like, yeah, well, but if it happened last night and you called me this morning and we're talking later today, And we go over the photo report and I show you the photos that, hey, this is what you're seeing inside. This is what's happening on the rooftop. You're like, I knew my whole home was going to collapse. I knew it. And then it's like, all right, I got to get something done. Because we're right next to what just happened that gave you enough activation energy to call me. But every single day you're going to start, that's going to drop down. And then also if you think about the other people you're competing against, if I get my quote, if they call in Monday and we speak Monday, if you're not till Friday, they might not even sit down with you. But also if now you stretch a week out to get them a quote, maybe now they get 5 quotes instead of 3, or maybe now they take 2 weeks to make a decision instead of 3 days, or maybe now they take 2 months instead of 2 weeks. You're giving them the perception and the kind of the permission to take longer to make that decision. You're like, hey, it's not a big deal. Versus with us, it's like, no, you got your roof is leaking. That's a huge deal. We should get this taken care of tomorrow. And they go, okay, yeah, I want to get it taken care of tomorrow. And we can now I'm matching your urgency.
Yeah, that's great advice, because it's crazy how fast the urgency fades. Right? Yep. We just we just talked about some of the stock market dipping and people freaking out. I'm already seeing people feel like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. Like, oh, maybe yep,
everybody's like, oh, it's just the way it is. Just gonna go up and down. We're good. I'll be in the middle.
Yeah, we're all right now, right? But in the moment, oh my gosh, like the world is collapsing. So there's a lot to that. What have you seen? You guys do a lot of marketing. I know you do a lot of LSAs. You do a lot of other marketing. What have you seen from the marketing side of things? And then I know that you went to a conference recently where a lot of big time marketers and big time lead aggregation companies were you got to hear some conversations going on there. What is it? Let's move to that lead side. You got to squeeze the juice, and I implore people to do that. Create the urgency of everything that you get. Make sure that you treat that as the last lead you'll ever get in your life. But now, what's the landscape looking like from the lead gen side?
Yeah, I mean, from us personally, we're seeing a huge drop in the number of leads. Whether you want to look at it as my cost per lead has gone up, or LSA leads have gone down. Either way, it's both an indication that less people are buying stuff, or even less people are even looking to potentially buy stuff. I went to Leads Con, which is the roof con just for leads. Didn't even know it existed, but it was actually really cool. It was interesting because like all the biggest sponsors, like none of them I've ever heard about. It's like a step above the people that you hear about, because the people you hear about are the ones that resell like their stuff, like at the very, very top. So these guys are generating, 10,000, 100,000 clicks a day. And then it filters out to all the resellers that then, eventually sell it down to us for our 10 leads a day. And so, what they mentioned is exactly that they're seeing, because they have, a ton of different aggregator sites that, the same person will put info in, to multiple sites, and they're seeing an increase in the number of form submissions per person, which is the same thing that I'm personally seeing with my team. The same thing that other RSR members have mentioned is that instead of getting 2 or 3 quotes, people are getting, 4, 5, and 6. And so it's when people have this kind of, uncertainty and fear, it's like, well, let me just get one more so I don't have to make a decision. That's and it's the same number of people looking for stuff, but just looking for more people. So, or to more companies. And so, they mentioned, in a couple of the panels, that it's going to be really important, to have your intake process dialed in, because it's going to be, the more people fighting over a smaller pool. And I think we're going to really, really see a massive shift in the amount of lead volume over. I mean, we're already seeing it now, but really over the next 6 months. I think it's going to more and more is going to come through on your cost per lead increasing, your quality of leads going down, because how we judge a quality of a lead is how many other roofers have they spoken to, and how long have they been looking for a roof. Well, if naturally the average homeowner is now going to talk to 5 people and take a month to make a decision instead of talk to 3, make it in a week. All of us are going to say that same exact lead that last week we were like, yeah, I want this lead, is now like not a very good lead. It's a tire kicker because they've already gotten 4 quotes. And so psychologically, you're going to go into it thinking it's a tire kicker when that same person would have been in your pipeline with 2 quotes, 6 months ago. And you would have went in like, oh, I'm the last man in here, the third quote. This is perfect. So I would just kind of say for everybody to expect that and to be more prepared for that. And it's just, it's happening at the largest levels. Everybody was talking about it at LeadsCon. It's going to be a challenge, over the rest of this year.
Yeah. And that's the interesting aspect of it that you mentioned is it's stretching out the buying process. And is that what made you kind of make a shift in focus to like helping them more with making that decision faster and creating urgency on that in the intake kind of aspect and through the sales process?
100%. Now what we really tell the sales team is like, we're there to help them make a decision. And then once they make a decision, then we're there to help them choose Reimagine. And kind of really shifting that thought process of making it almost like a 2-stage close. And spending even more time on the front end of talking about those things. And also, Jordan Belfort talks about it, is being honest with yourself, meaning when you ask a question, listening to the true response. And a lot of times in sales, they'll go, okay, this looks great. I'll call you back. And you're like, you hear all this fear and trepidation in the voice, or you see it like if you're in person, but the words say, great, I'll call you back. And you just deep down, you know that is not a firm call you back. That's not a good way to end. But you just go, okay, great. And you close up, or asking, hey, based on this photo report you just looked at, how do you feel about your roof now? Oh, it doesn't look good. Okay, great. And then you're moving on instead of hanging out. Like, well, do you see why a repair might not be possible? Like, do you really understand what we're looking at here? Did you get a chance to, watch the video beforehand and getting them to really understand that they have to get a new roof, if that's the situation, or they have to make the repair, or they have to open the claim, whatever it is. And then once they've decided, okay, I have to open the claim, or okay, I have to replace my roof, then we can talk about, okay, here's why we're the best solution for you. But we have only really talked to customers in the past that had already made that decision. There was always some on the fence, but it was like 20%. And now it's more than half, and it's the same, like on the metal side as well. We've added in conversations with the homeowners that, hey, if you're like, a lot of my homeowners now, they're a little bit unsure about making this large of an investment. Would it be helpful if we looked at shingle quotes as well? And a lot of times they're saying, I just didn't want to bother you guys with a shingle quote because I know you guys specialize in metal. Basically saying, hey, I'm at the Lamborghini dealership and I feel like a bum asking for a Ford. And we got to be like, no, I got Fords in the back too. Don't worry.
Yeah. Like, we're hiding them. We're hiding them back here, but we got them for you.
Nice focus if that's what you're looking for. I'm just trying to sell you a car. Either way, you got to get the roof. But be willing to have that conversation and ask that question, and just be a lot, honest and straight up and say, hey, a lot of people are struggling with this decision. Are you in that same boat? And then once you say, then people just dump and now they're just telling you, oh yeah, I wasn't really sure about this. Okay, well, let's talk more about financing. You mentioned that, but I just didn't really want to. And they and now they express the real underlying issues of what's going on. And then we can help work them through it and help show them that, okay, you're scared, but guess what? You're going to be scared in 2 months and your roof's going to be more expensive. So what do you want to do? It's just, there's no real other path. If you have a 21-year-old roof, you're going to live in this house for the next 10 years. There's no other solution besides getting the roof done. And anything besides doing it, in the next 7 days or, puts you at risk.
I think there's another side to this that sales reps in this industry are going to push on. And that is they're going to try to sell to people who don't want to buy, or who they feel don't want to buy, or maybe I'm not putting it right, but it just came to my mind. Like, like you said early on in the conversation, not everyone is your customer. And so are you trying to more quickly determine if they're in buy mode now? Or because if you don't have a lot of opportunities in front of you, sometimes you try to overdo the opportunities you have. If that is that making sense where I'm going with this? Like
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I think also, it kind of comes with those honest conversations. If you're following up with Billy Bob for the 92nd time, are you really having an honest conversation when you talk to Billy Bob? Are you having an honest conversation with yourself? Or deep down inside, you know that Billy Bob's not signing for this roof, and you knew that 13 contact attempts ago, but you don't have many other leads. You don't feel like knocking doors, and so you're just going to keep calling Billy Bob. And I think during these times, whether you're a business owner or a sales rep, you really have to focus on being truthful about what's in your pipeline. Both for crews, for employees, for overhead, for salespeople. Like if you don't have enough of a pipeline, you need to be calling on general contractors or, builders or insurance agents or wherever else, real estate agents, wherever else you'd be normally getting a roof from. You might need to do a little bit more prospecting. If you're getting all of your leads provided for you right now, you might need to be prepared that it's going to be 60-40 in the future because, consider yourself lucky that you've gotten all those leads up to this point, but your company is probably going to struggle to continue to keep that. If it's something that, business owners and sales reps need to work together on and understand that, in these more difficult economic times, like we got to be sharper. We got to make sure we're calling that lead, within the, whatever your SOP or your standard is, following the process, because we got to maximize every lead. But also if we're spending 3 weeks following up with Billy Bob, is that meaning that you're not calling the new one that just came in? Or is that mean you're not out there, prospecting or doing whatever else, or calling your referrals, et cetera, because you're kind of just staying busy with the easiest thing possible.
Yeah, that's what I think a lot of sales reps will do, is just stay busy with the easiest thing possible and not do the hard thing. All right. So kind of to bring it all together, if you're coaching one of the RSRA team, members of the RSRA, one of the companies, and they're like, Kody, all this is going on. You got a couple minutes with me. What the heck should I do?
You should be the best at what you are. Meaning that if you are a, $2 million company and it's Bob's Roofing and you're Bob, you need to lean into that. Because guess what? Right now, Bob can offer better prices than the PE-backed firms. And Mr. Homeowner, do you really want to support the big man right now versus the little guy that's just trying to, support the local community, blah, blah, blah. If you're the big guy, hey, guess what? Do you really want to go with Bob, who's right now really, really difficult economic times? Businesses are going out of business left and right. Is Bob going to be around in the next 3 years or in the next 3 months even? But you can't be Bob trying to be the big guy, and you can't be the big guy trying to be Bob. You have to just be who you are, and then really maximize that. Be the best version of whatever size company you are, whatever your go-to is, whatever your story is, whatever makes you special and the best. There's something that you do better than anybody else in your market, or top 5 or top 3. Figure out what that is, scream it from the rooftops, no pun intended, and let every customer know, if you want this is what I am. And don't try to be something you're not, because customers now are even more guarded in the last 90 days. And so they're going to be even more suspicious. They're going to, and if you're not honest, you're not truthful, if they, see through it, they'll never go with you. So better to be, true to yourself, and just be, unabashedly what you are. And then customers will love the authentic nature of it. And some want to buy from the big boys. Some want to buy from the locals. Some want to buy from the mid people. Some want to buy online. Some want to buy, sitting in somebody's home. Some want to buy Owens Corning. Some want to buy JF, but nobody wants to buy from somebody that's a liar or somebody that's not honest. And you can only fake the funk for so long. And you just can't do it reliably. So just be true to who you are, lean into it, be even more of who you are right now, and be even better at what you can offer, step it up even more, and try to put some things out there that make you unique and that really, emphasize what makes you special as a contracting company.
That's awesome, man. Great advice. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.